Welcome to the Esoerotic Dark Feminine Magic Podcast. My name is Crimson, creatrix of Esoeroticism, and I help mystically minded folks awaken their dark feminine magic. Welcome to the Portal of Enchantment. Welcome, Tara, to the Esoerotic Dark Feminine Magic Podcast. It's March 2026, and we made it through February 2026. So yes, so excited for this conversation. Feel free to share anything you want to share, but let me kick us off asking what are some words or some energies that we can look forward to astrologically for March?
Yeah. So March is a threshold month. It is a portal. It is liftoff, baby.
I feel it. I feel it.
Yeah. Now, what's so interesting about March is, and there's been a lot of hype. There was a lot of hype on February 17th because that was You're the Fire Horse beginning. We had our solar eclipse in Aquarius, and everyone was super hyped about the Fire Horse, which is great. Like, we should be hyped. And there is still a lot of subtle lessons that we are working on. Another word for March, but that's really kind of the word for the next year, is nuance. And I know we've talked about it before. We're going to keep on talking about it.
It's our favorite.
It's our favorite word. Yeah. And March is just such a dynamic month because we start March, it's Pisces season. And Pisces is that final sign of the zodiac. It's mutable water. It is about, multidimensionality, feeling everything. And then we go into Aries season at, March 20th at the equinox, and talk about a vibe change.
And we have to wish Tara happy birthday season because Tara is a Pisces.
Yes. Late degree Pisces, March 16th. I would have hung out longer, but then I would have been in Aries, and I was like, whoa. I'm just kidding. I love my Aries.
No, we need you in that Piscean energy. So I know right now we're in that eclipse portal, and we kick off, I believe, March 3rd with our lunar eclipse, our full moon in Virgo. So is that kind of the first energy, and maybe do you want to affirm how we're feeling in this eclipse portal right now?
Yeah. So one thing I want to point out, because I need this reminder, even though we talk about this all the time. It's one thing to know the astrology, to look at things. It's another thing to be in the energy. Right. And I just want to say, this is a time period where it's so important to be connected with yourself, to be embodied, because we're kind of all over the place. I know some people are really fatigued right now. They're needing a lot of rest. They're needing a lot of introspection. We have other people that are feeling really hyped. They're starting a bunch of creative projects at once. So really, it's we're kind of all over the map. And then additionally, we just had Mercury retrograde in Pisces begin on the 26th.
Y'all, this happens multiple times every year. But from what I understand, this is actually one of the more potent Mercury retrogrades of our life.
Yes.
It is so hyperbolic. I feel like every time we get on here, it's like of our lifetime, but literally it's what's happening, that this cosmic energy is so potent and heightened and new. So tell us about that.
So we have, we're in Pisces season. We have Mercury retrograde in Pisces, which, by the way, all of the Mercury retrogrades this year are in water signs. So we've got one in Pisces now. The next one's going to be in Cancer. The next one's going to be in Scorpio. And anytime we have Mercury retrogrades in water signs, this is about really creating presence for our intuition to rise. It is so potent, and I mean, it is gold truth that is coming up. The other thing too, with it being in Pisces, Pisces is the end of the zodiac. We're wrapping things up. We are closing karmic loops. We are, making connections to things that have been, stirring over the past 18 months. And when we are going through this retrograde, we're paying attention to all of the unspoken wisdom, because that is preparing us for when we move into Aries season at the spring equinox on March 20th. And Aries season is all about jumping into that unknown, but using the wisdom that we have gleaned from this time period.
Y'all, pay attention to your intuition. And that is why our March archetype of the month in the Erotic Multiverse, our virtual online community, is the intuitive wayfinder. Yes.
Yeah.
Pathfinder. Yes. I almost said Pathfinder, the intuitive wayfinder.
Yes.
And chose this energy knowing spoiler, it's always chosen based on the astrology, but that we really it's almost like we embody the work that we teach. But yeah, so it's so important right now because here's my thought. We are in paradigm shifting times. Things in a year from now, I feel like I'm being all so dramatic, the drama, but I do truly believe 1 year from now we are going to live in such a different world. So many shifts are happening, and it doesn't have to be bad, it doesn't have to be tragic. It just is. That's how cycles work. That's how evolution works. However, things that were so dependable in the past, things that worked for us, systems that we depended on, ways of being that potentially didn't really feel aligned, but quote unquote worked, will no longer anymore. And that's why we keep talking about, okay, intuition and turn on. To me, that's your combo. If you can listen to your intuition and follow your turn on, these are tools that are going to guide you beyond what is crumbling so that you enter this new paradigm truly aligned with why you're here. And to me, that's how we're going to find success. And so intuition is such an important thing to cultivate. But it requires being in your body. It requires also stripping away external conditioning, old programs, old ways of being. To me, this is the work we do in the multiverse. And so, intuition. I love that. That is what Mercury retrograde this year is always returning us to.
Yes. And it's like you can look at any Mercury retrograde, and that's one of the big themes is this heightening of intuition. Now, with it being in water signs, because water signs, and I want to be very clear, every sign has intuition, has this innate ability to see beyond what is directly presented in front of us. When it is water, though, there is a lot that it's like sifting. We use water to sift through things. It's sifting through all of this information, and we're getting this gift, and that's what Mercury retrograde is. It's this gift to review all this information that we have been moving through and recognizing the things that we missed the first time around. And the other thing that I want to say on the air.
You speak your truth, Tara.
Is I know right now when we get on the internet, it can be really heavy and it can be really overwhelming. And the thing that I have found actually comforting is the world is not worse than it used to be. We're just exposing more of it because we have the tools to connect, to see that's all very Mercury based, connection, information sharing. And I want to remind all of us, because I need this reminder, is in this overwhelm, we need to remember that for the first time in our species history, we have more power than ever to change things. Yes, a lot is coming forward that is disturbing, is upsetting, is, depressing. And we, need to look at the information, and we need to remember that we now have the power to change things that we have never had before. And that is just so, so important. I went down this rabbit hole. Spoiler, I'm kind of a nerd, you guys. I went down this historical rabbit hole about like women in the workplace, and it was just different cultures and how that was viewed, and looking back at how much effort it took to change like basic things like what time and how long you're allowed to take your lunch, and the organization of groups so that they could make these changes. And they were able to do that without the internet, without all this information, in the palm of their hand. And so now, and I know it's a double-edged sword. We're getting all this information, uh, you know, at once, which can be overwhelming. But we also just need to remember, like, we can change things at a rate we've never been able to change them before. And that's so important to remember during this time, because that's going to become a big deal. I mean, we start to realize how big of a deal it is in March, but then, I mean, that's the theme for honestly the next 2 years.
I love it. Would you rather live in a world to me it's like living in Pleasantville or
Mhm.
whatever, the Stepford Wife, where
Yes.
everything is perfectly manicured and everyone appears so happy and everything is great when everyone's crumbling inside.
Yes.
The pedophilia rings have existed and
Hmm.
now it's being exposed. People in power have abused that power and now it's
Mhm.
being exposed.
Yeah.
And I believe that as someone who feels very in integrity, uh,
Hmm.
aligning with justice, that this is a huge opportunity, and
Yeah.
also why we always return to our dark feminine needs to rise up because we're the ones creating the new paradigm, and we're also the ones calling out the injustices, and we're the ones who are coming into our wholeness by no longer
Hmm.
cutting ourselves off from aspects of ourselves that are truly where our power lies. And you can even think about that as intuition, because
Hmm.
we have not been taught that our intuition is something that we should trust. We always have been told to logic and
Yes.
but look at the data and put a spreadsheet together and what historically is like the accuracy rates and
Hmm.
whatever. Of course we learn from history,
Hmm.
but I personally believe that in the like all of this systemic, logical, number
Hmm.
strategy, like, oh, this strategy works, and none of that shit matters anymore because they were
Yeah.
all mechanisms of control and they were all mechanisms of performance and inauthenticity. And we are in a return to authenticity, which is beautiful.
Yes, yes. And a thing I remember, I took 3 statistics classes throughout my university time, and one of the biggest things was when we think of logic and rationale. I mean, statistics are used to support that. But here's the thing: you can manipulate statistics so easily.
We see that. We definitely see
Right.
that.
We see that all the time. And the thing about intuition too that's so powerful, and again, it's this double-edged sword, because our intuition is one, it moves just lightning fast. I know a lot of, if you do any type of like intuitive exercises, they'll tell you like go with your first urge. But intuition, the thing is oftentimes people are like, yeah, but then I start to overthink. The reality is intuition, it is extremely hard to manipulate true intuition. Because
Mm.
we've all had that experience where our intuition says something and then someone starts to logic us, and we're like, oh, okay. I mean, I bought a treadmill one time in my early 20s, and I realized later after I'd done the purchase, and I was like, man, I got manipulated.
Ah, some sales
Right.
tomfoolery.
Yeah, but it's just, and again, it comes back to, and this time is so potent for this. It comes back to like trusting that first feeling, that first whatever it is, that's often the thing that we need to pay attention to. And it doesn't have to be like, that's how I got my multi-million-dollar idea. It can just be like, oh yeah, that's what my body needed tonight.
I was gonna say, like, eat the banana, or you
Exactly.
know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
and being able, this is why Tara and I will always preach embodiment, because you need to recognize the difference between what
Mm-hmm.
intuition feels like in your body, and what anxiety feels like in your body, and what fear feels like in your body, and what
Mm-hmm.
fawning feels like in your body. And those are practices that are somatic, meaning like you can't like really rationalize it, you can only feel it. And so
Yes.
yeah, I think people
Mm-hmm.
who have been very strategy logic driven, which
Mm-hmm.
I just feel is very masculine, is very AI, is very like bro culture in
Tech
general,
bro, yeah.
you know, counting the macros down to whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that that is the future we're moving into. I do believe that we are moving into a future that is based on being, whether you call it heart led,
Mm-hmm.
or led by turn on, or led by intuition, but there's a feminine quality about it, which,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
I'm hot for it. I'm
Yeah,
so
me too. It turns me on.
It does, because think about it, for, you know, anyone still listening to our ramblings, we haven't even gotten to the full moon on the 3rd, that that there's a liberation to that. There's a freedom to that. And there's a place for everyone in society when we start to consider that possibility, that we
Yeah.
all don't have to fit into a mold, and there's not a one size fits all.
Yeah.
I really love the liberation of that.
Yes. No, and it's so important. And don't worry, we haven't been rambling. What we have been describing is Mars moving into Pisces, which it does
Ooh.
that March 2nd. So not to worry. We're not off topic. But Mars in Pisces is literally embodiment of our intuition and finding everyday ritual that reconnects us to our bodies. And I'm only mentioning this because I actually had someone on Instagram, a man, message me who was just asking about he'd been researching. It was so cute. He had been I got his permission to to chat about him. He had been researching the best intuition hacks.
Stop it.
I was like, I just want to hug your man self through
Are
the
you
internet.
tell me that you've been like delusioned by the patriarchy by wanting to hack your intuition, and how
Yeah, yeah. And so he was
how do I
like,
human optimize my intuition?
right.
Is
And
there
so,
a
like, on the one hand,
supplement?
I'm so glad that you're interested in intuition because everyone has it. But that's the thing is, and with Mars and Pisces, traditional astrology is gonna be like, it's not it's not at its full potency in Pisces. I respectfully call bullshit. It's using Mars's action energy in a way that is not logical to us. Logical does not mean, like, again, logical is not more valuable.
No.
Oftentimes, whenever we have Mars in Pisces or in any of the water signs, honestly, Cancer and Scorpio as well, but especially Pisces, that is where we have the greatest reward in following our embodied intuition.
Ooh, I
Yeah.
believe this.
Yeah. And then how this works every day, if you're like, okay, but what does that mean every day? During this time period, over the next month, finding an everyday embodied ritual. So whether that's yoga, whether that's dance, whether that is, going outside. And I'm not saying going outside and listening to a podcast,
I was
but
gonna
like
say,
going
without technology.
yeah, without technology, just like being outside, moving your body, noticing how you're feeling, noticing what's coming up for you.
Yeah.
That is going to be so important, and we need that anyway because like we keep teasing, and we're going to talk about the March 3rd lunar eclipse. We're in the eclipse portal. We're actually in the, even though we have the energy that's affecting us 6 months out, so we're always in some kind of eclipse energy, but the big window we're in that really heightened energy all the way until March 16th. And
Okay.
so it's just important for us to be, because we're going to feel angsty if we're not in our bodies. Because there's just a lot of energy swirling. We're going to feel foggy. We're going to feel angsty. Channeling that energy into, just start with physical movement
The
that you
other
enjoy.
night, I was doing some work and I just found myself starting to get into that
Mm-hmm.
default mental spiral, and I put a song on and I
Mm-hmm.
was just dancing and I was like, yes, this is what, and I've been starting every morning dancing now too. I go back and forth with that, but now I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing it every fucking day just
Yeah.
because I have felt and so that's just a
Mhm.
tool. If people are like, give me the tool, and they
Right.
want like a spreadsheet of like, do the box breath for 3 minutes, and then witches, put on a damn song and
Bro, give me
dance.
the embodiment hack.
I know people like, it's very interesting that we're so um we want to overcomplicate things sometimes rather than to me, put on a song and just
Mhm.
move and dance, and not to like perform TikTok choreography, but is your body saying it needs to shake? Is it saying it needs to
Yes.
jump? Is it saying it needs to circle out and feel in itself? Do it. That
Well,
is your
yes.
tool.
Because here's my controversial opinion for this episode.
Ooh.
A lot of those hacks are an excuse to give away your sovereignty.
Mhm.
Because bottom line, and I've been guilty of it too. We want those hacks. We want to buy that little spreadsheet, or for, there's all these little AI formulas out there that you plug into Chat GPT. You want, like, it's this human drive that we're always, having to push back against, where we want someone to tell us what to do, so that, one, we want someone to tell us what to do, so then when it doesn't work out, we can blame someone else.
Can I tell you that has been an ongoing, that anyone who teaches spirituality and somatics, I'm sure, hey,
Mhm.
let us know in the comments, have you experienced this? Because we've been on
Yeah.
both sides. I'm not coming at this
Mm.
on a high horse.
Yeah, we got very
But
low horses right now.
the horses are very low.
Yep.
But recognize when you're when you are giving away your sovereignty to something that is like so inconsequential, and it's because like we really just need to regain our self-trust. But I always use the story. I remember being teaching a dance class, and I say, roll to your
Mhm.
back, and they're like, how do we roll to our back? And I
Mhm.
was like, wow,
Mhm.
that's like crazy that that's such a disconnection. And then, you being a teacher, like, okay, you're
Mhm.
in bed, how would you roll to your back? And there
Yeah.
we go. But we have given away our ability to do things that should be so natural to us. I keep sharing that I read this thing the other day where, when did things like art and dancing and singing turn into skills and not just ways of being?
Right.
And we should, yes, do.
Mhm.
I think it's cool. I'm not really a breath work girly, but like I know there's like 85 million kinds of like different breath works that you can
Mhm.
use, or you could just breathe with intention,
Yeah. Yeah.
or you could just find some stillness, maybe go outside and just tap in and say, what does my breath want to slow right now? Does it want to be
Yes.
deeper? Like the I know a lot of spirituality has turned into spiritual technology,
Yeah.
and I
Mhm.
am kind of not, that's not my jammy jam.
Yeah. Well, and it's so, like, that becomes such a huge aspect of the lunar eclipse in Virgo.
We've made it
This
to March 3rd, y'all.
Yeah, so March 3rd, lunar eclipse always occurs at a full moon at 12 degrees Virgo, 12 degrees and 53 minutes for, if you want to get like
Ooh.
really, really technical
Go,
on that.
go check your charts, y'all. Where does
Go
12
check your
degrees
chat.
of Virgo fall?
Yeah, and the thing is, so Pisces and Virgo are on the same axis, just at opposite ends. They both deal with the weaving of the magical and the mundane. So Pisces is more associated with the ethereal realm, the dream realm, the magical realm. Virgo is about channeling that energy of Pisces into the mundane. Now, here's the thing, though, is when we have a full moon, there's a natural polarity. There's tension between the sign that the sun is in, it's going to be in Pisces, and the sign that the moon is in. And when we think Virgo, we think of like the systems analyst, the tech nerd, I'm going to detail everything. What this eclipse is highlighting for us is, where have we gotten so bogged down in the technical, logical details that we have forgotten that we've lost the plot?
Oh my gosh.
It's like,
Yes.
I think of kind of like, I remember I used to know this guy in back when I was in school, and he was super into fitness and health, but he was miserable because it was like in the morning he would measure out these like weird food gram things. And I remember one day, like, we were all going to go to brunch at some place, and he was just like, well, I don't know how much protein and how much fat, and like he couldn't enjoy eating. And then he couldn't enjoy, like, everything was about the data. And this eclipse is like, yeah, absolutely, you need to be healthy. Absolutely, you need to be in spiritual integrity. But like, don't lose the pot. Don't lose yourself to these hacks, to these chat GPT prompts that are supposed to like map out your entire life. Don't give away your power. It's that last really big reminder. And okay, here's my prediction. We're going to see some more exposure around the spiritual gurus, the wellness gurus, like all this stuff that has been really big when Saturn and Neptune were in Pisces. I think we're going to be seeing some more just awakening around that. And it's like coming back to trusting yourself.
When you were talking, what was coming to my mind, and probably a lot of people listening, was the techification of spirituality.
Yes.
And oh my goodness. Yeah. And I think I can't speak for everyone. I've tried, I kind of got allured in like, I can be efficient with this systemization of a spirituality that is so efficient and accurate. And how unspiritual is that to have the tech bros in Silicon Valley determining your spiritual practice? What a lesson we had to learn. I mean, we see Jay Shetty being dragged all freaking over. Good. I'm sure he's a very nice person, but I think exactly that there has been a misalignment to what spirituality is, and how people have maybe commodified it. And I get it. I make money off of having a spiritual community, not as much money as Jay Shetty, but like, there's nuance, like you said. And I would just love if spirituality found a return to an inner exploration as opposed to an outer dictatorship and systemization. I remember there was this viral video going around of a fitness guy, and he was like, don't be a fucking loser. You can go to a party and not bring your chicken and broccoli and just eat food. Like, y'all, like, you've missed the plot if you
don't be a weirdo.
Yeah, but remember that one viral video of the guy who like woke up at 3:30 and then he splashed his face with like bottled water, and then he did and it was like his morning whatever routine, and I think that was like peak, like, what are we doing? This is ridiculous. Be human, be humans, don't be cyborgs.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing I want to point out is like, there's nothing wrong with wanting an outline.
Right. Agree.
Because I get it. Like, I have a very active mind, and I could sit here all day with a spreadsheet and like calculate how I'm going to structure everything. There's nothing wrong with having an outline. And there's a lot of really helpful apps that kind of help you figure out like, this is when it's best for you to work out, and this is when it's best for you to be doing your computer work, whatever it might be. Right. But just remembering that like, you are in control. You have
the authority on you.
You are the authority. Yes. And that is really going to be highlighted with this eclipse, because it's also going to be one of the other big things going on. And it's just a doubling down of not just our individual journey, but the collective of recognizing the messaging that we're getting around a lot of things. And I know, like, there's been a lot that has come up, even in just from the last time we had our podcast for February. There's been so much that's been coming up around wellness, around beauty standards, and
Yes.
the conditioning that we have all been marinating in.
Gosh, realizing how oppressive has that been?
Yes, yes. And this eclipse is really going to highlight not just more of like what we've been marinating in, but the thing to return to again and again and again is that we have the power to change that. We have the power to reject what has not been working for a while and to build something new. You know, this time period with the solar eclipse that we had last month in Aquarius, this one in, you know, in Virgo this month. Aquarius and Virgo are about assessing systems. And then that highest embodiment is remembering our authority over those systems and that we can shift them.
I love that, whether that's politically, whether that's in your work, whether that's in your relationships, in your life. I'm going to shamelessly plug right now, because I'm even equating this to, I'm starting a branding 6-month branding group called Brand Catalyx that I'm so excited on March 5th. And it's so aligned with this because what we're going to be doing is like stripping away this structuralization and systemization and performativeness and ickiness of promoting our work, you know, as whether you're a teacher or a small business owner or whatever it is that you do. And that is the energy that I've been feeling. And it's because we have gotten to the point where we have like become so disassociated even with our how we want to promote and talk about our work that it feels so gross. The reason it feels so gross is because it's inauthentic, but we've been so conditioned that we have to do it like this and this. And we've listened to all the marketing, you know, podcasts, and we've done the programs, and it's like, well, you have to post at this time and you have to say this and it has to be on social media and you have to be, and it's gross. And everyone intuitively knows it's gross. And I hate it. Now, what we're going to do is strip away that conditioning so that you can actually, it's not saying you don't promote your work. Spoiler, if you want to have a business or you want to have work, since the dawn of time, you got to promote your work, you know? That's just part of having a business or being a solopreneur. So, but what we're going to talk about is, okay, how do we strip all that away? And then how do we just show up authentically in a way that feels really turned on so that you don't mind talking about your work? Because I think people are so disinterested and can see right through the systemization of everything.
Yes. And I think it's part of it is like we've overthought so much of this. And then the other big aspect of, you know, Pisces season in general, but especially with all this concentration, I was wandering the internet and there were a bunch of very well-meaning astrologers that were talking about like Pisces season is about surrendering. And I know like you and I talk about surrender a lot, but I mean, everyone on the internet was freaked out. They're like, what does that mean? And the thing to remember about surrender is returning to authenticity. Because you're setting down, like you said, all the conditioning. And March is kind of this final time of being like, what are you still carrying from the past? Whatever expectation, whatever facade, you know, without judgment, look at what are you carrying that is no longer useful. What are you carrying because you've been told to carry it?
And you know what? A good question that I've been asking myself, and maybe this would be helpful to people, is that if there was no reward or external validation on the other side, would I still do this? And obviously, I'm not, you know, we are humans having a human experience. I'm not saying don't go to work because if you weren't getting paid, you wouldn't do it. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about like, would you dress a certain way and it was inconsequential of how anyone responded to you? Or would you work out a certain way, or would you, because I truly believe that you would still do positive things for your
Mhm.
body. You would still have purpose in life, but you can strip away a lot of the external conditioning, because if the answer is um but then you're going to lose your house and mortgage.
Right.
I'm not one of those woo woo people that's like, just do what you want,
If you want
man.
a house, then you're super selfish.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
you're not
like,
like
it's not that. Like, we are human and
yeah.
we have to play the hands we're dealt, right? But
Right.
like, the systems are changing, and so
Mhm.
like, but we could be more authentic within them, and we can be more turned on within them. And when you think, it's really interesting to see how we can strip back. Like, would I be doing this right now if I wasn't getting likes? Would I be doing
Right.
this right now if, I even think about some of the things I'm doing with eroticism right now. I'm like, well, we're not getting a lot of turnout right now, but like, I still love it.
Yeah.
And actually, like, I see how this is building a foundation, like certain things I'm doing. And I'm like, I'm still fucking doing it because I love it. And I
Mhm.
see how this is going to, like, I'm going to be able to build up top of that. And I'm going to encourage everyone to take that perspective rather than feeling like I'm doing it wrong.
Right.
But if it still feels good, does that sound like that's what it's supporting right now? Am I on the
Yes.
right path?
Yeah, you're absolutely on the right path. Absolutely. And I think this stuff is naturally kind of coming up for a lot of us because the other another notable thing that happens in March after the eclipse, March 11th, Jupiter turns direct in Cancer. Now, why that's significant? Jupiter, we often think of Jupiter as the planet of expansion, abundance.
Mhm.
Jupiter is also the planet of our beliefs, our faith
Mm.
in ourselves. And Jupiter in Cancer has been expanding our awareness around, our beliefs around ourselves. How are we taking care of ourselves? Our beliefs about, at the collective level, we've definitely been seeing it. We've been reassessing our beliefs about our national identity. Who are we? How do we define home?
Yeah.
And how do we associate with our lineages? And
Mhm.
also, we've also been having collectively things come up around what do we claim to believe, and then what do we actually practice, or what do we actually allow? And so that aligns with what you were just talking about of where, what do I do every day? And as you already said so well, obviously, yes, we still have to show up and go to work and do our things, but looking at where can I begin to, whether it's a reframe, or whether it is an actual like course change, and how can I continue to align what I believe with what I'm actually practicing in the real world.
Ooh,
And we
that
all
part.
have this work to do. So it's gonna be
Yeah, we are on the lowest horses right now again.
yeah.
But like, we talked about this last month with the Catalyx,
Yep.
our archetype last month in
Yep.
February, which is change doesn't happen by staying comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, yes, it is like, okay, I believe this, but it's comfortable for me to show up in this way. I believe we're going to be spiritually challenged in that, and energetically challenged. And we are being called to into greater alignment. And I mean, it's so fascinating to see how collectively this is
Mm-hmm.
impacting us, and obviously how personally. And
Mm-hmm.
ooh, the global is experiencing this as well.
Yes. And that's the other thing I want to reiterate, because it can be really easy to just get bogged down in what's going on here in America. It is we are experiencing this globally. I mean, one notable thing, our neighbors, Mexico, if you've seen the news, they are dealing with um, the army ended up killing a cartel leader, and then the cartels are retaliating, and it is very, it's very chaotic down there. It's very dangerous. I
One of
mean,
our
we're of course
members lives in that town, and so I
yeah.
actually talked to her yesterday, and she's doing well, but
Oh
she
yeah.
was like, I moved to Mexico to get out of the United States, and then this freaking happens at my doorstep.
Right.
What?
Yeah, and so and I mean there are so many incidents across the globe of upheaval happening, and
Mhm.
just a lot of questioning, because for a long time, and I fully admit I don't know all of the nuances, but I know for a long time there were issues where the cartels were committing atrocities, and Mexican citizens were like, hey, are y'all gonna help us out? And the government's like, ooh, well, it's complicated, you guys. And
Yeah.
so now there's been this turnabout where they, they went and they were supposed to take this leader into custody. There ended up being an altercation. They were trying to get, he was wounded. They were trying to get him to a hospital, and he ended up dying en route. And then now we are here where we are. And so there's a lot of changing energies. Some of it is with good intention, and it is still causing upheaval because there is so much that we have not addressed leading up to now.
It's coming to light. This is what
Yeah.
happens when we don't do our shadow work.
Yes. Yes. Pork my arch up burns when we don't do our shadow work. Yeah, and it's just, and it's when we look at the US, we are, what is it? This is our 250th
Pluto return,
anniversary of,
baby.
yeah. And the reality is we have to continue doing this work of facing all of the things that, because yeah, we haven't done shadow work for a very long time as a country, and now it's here again.
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
been kind of bratty. I'm liking it to like, okay, we were know-it-all teenagers,
Yes.
and now we're entering more of like a mature phase of,
Mhm.
okay, the adults actually need to take over, and the adults are actually the ones who are not acting like self-serving, immature,
Yes.
power hungry little
Mhm.
boys.
Right. And that's the thing too, because like a big theme of Pisces, which makes people uncomfortable, and why they like to kind of like joke about Pisces being spacey. Pisces is about the dissolution of self.
Mhm.
So we think about, oftentimes Scorpio gets the reputation for being like the creepy one into death, but Scorpio deals with, that season's about like physical death.
Okay.
um Pisces is, physical death and transformation. So like Persephone's little underworld journey, she gets to go boing Katie's, comes back, and it's like, hey, I'm back, look at me, glow up. Pisces is like, you are not going to know who you are by the time I'm done with you, and it's going to be better than the version you were before. But as humans, we are terrified of that, going into the unknown and losing who we think ourselves to be. And that's the energy of March, is we're in this threshold of like, we are in progress to going into a new reality. And it's chaotic right now because yes, there's lots of discussion about how the current powers that be are in their extinction burst. They're in, the death phase. And the reality is we can be like, yeah, then it's going to get really good. We have to do the work to get to the really good part.
Yeah, yeah, that is kind of like what we talked about last month, is that you
Mhm.
just can't be against something, you need to be
Right.
for something, and so you can't just say, "Well, I'm anti-fascism," and then topple fascism and then be like, "Hey." Like, "Hey, we should be building the communities
Yes.
now. We should be building what
Yes.
we wanna see in the world now." Unfortunately, we've been led to believe that everything, this is another thing I don't like about purity culture,
Mhm.
which is the everything is so clean and so clean cuts and pure, And so there's a lot of people with religious programming who use words like clean, clean, clean.
Yeah.
And so anything that doesn't feel sterile
Mm-hmm.
and streamlined feels wrong.
Yes.
And the reality is that we live in a chaotic universe.
Yes.
We live in a nonlinear universe. So as we are, you gotta fight fascism, but you also got to pick your kids up from school, and then you also have to come like get your sensual dance on, and you also have to go, hang out with your community and build them up.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's get used to things being things are never going to feel. And that's, I think, another thing that the spiritual tech bros is that this is what I think, like the silent retreats and the being in these retreats where you just could strip away the chaos of everything. And
Yeah.
then we felt that that was peak spirituality, when
Mm-hmm.
you just feel you've controlled everything and everything is quiet and
Mm-hmm.
everything is just still. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's probably level 3 of spirituality.
Yes.
You have to then be able to return to the world and
Mm-hmm.
operate in more of that, like, I guess, Zen like
Yeah.
surrender, but also activeness,
Yes.
participatory actor in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of what we're mourning, and we may not realize that we're mourning this weird trauma response to post World War II. Like, so stay with me here.
Oh, I'm with you.
So, when I think of when you were talking about the purity culture, what popped to mind was all this talk. There's a lot of people, typically older people, that really romanticize the 1950s, and they're just like, that's when we had family values and we had blah, blah. I was like, okay, no, like, if you were a white affluent dude, it was great. Everyone
Right.
else kind of shitty. But the thing is like, we I was reading this article that was based on a book by Tom Brokaw, the Greatest Generation, and it talks about, we come back from World War II. We have the baby boom, we have this post-war economy, but because the Depression and World War II was so traumatic, and before that we had World War One. Before that, I mean, you can keep going back to like all these human tragedies. Things finally looked up for the first time. And so our trauma response was to pretend that there is nothing wrong. And we really rode that. We were kind of able to ride that through the 90s.
We were
Um,
literally giving people lobotomies.
yeah, it was
Like,
fucked up.
like think about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was when you break down the 50s, like, there was a lot of weird stuff going on. And so honestly, what this time is we are waking up. And a lot of us, you and me, our communities, we're waking up. Yes, it's uncomfortable because we're sifting through the hoarder house that is the last 50 years.
Oh my gosh. Well, and I've read on the boomer generation that
Mhm.
because exactly they were born out of World War II,
Yeah.
is that their number one concern is security.
Yes.
And so security can be confused with um ignoring
Mhm.
uncomfortableness. So
Yes.
instead, and ignoring yourself, putting
Mhm.
your own self aside, because, well, if I have the house, if I have the nuclear family, if I
Yeah.
have the projection, if I'm accepted by the
Yes.
tribe, then I'm safe, I'm secure. And so there was a complete stripping away of like
Mhm.
any kind of inner reflection of like, well,
Yeah.
what do I desire? Who am I outside of this? Well, that's unsafe.
Yeah.
That's not secure to stand out. And so
Right.
there was like this, you know, what's the word?
Homogenization. Yeah.
Homogenization of
Yeah.
society. And guess what? That didn't really serve people of color, people who were queer, people who were women,
Yeah.
people with that had handicaps, things like that. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, why
No,
are we glorifying that time? Why the make American great again? What the fuck are you talking about? Like,
yeah. There's just, and I think that's the thing we're waking up from, or at least the younger generations, Gen X and younger. And don't worry, there's some cool boomers out there, you guys.
yeah, the ones who like were, because we also have to remember like civil rights
Right.
and all of that happened with the boomers, and
Yeah. But I
some of
think,
them are still. Oh, I love it.
yeah, there's we could have a whole another hour on just talking about the complexities of that generation, because
Yeah,
yeah, they gave us so much, and then also here we are. But
and
yeah,
then hit the bed.
yeah, exactly. Yes. But and I think that's the thing, is we are moving forward, we are awake now. And this aligns with another big transit I think it's big. Some astrologers are like, but March 13th, we actually have Mars in Pisces that conjuncts the North Node. And that is big on get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that aligns with what we've been talking about. And I want to go back to what you were saying about how we're never going to reach a point where it's like, okay, we're going to do a bunch of work
And then
and
we're
then it's
done.
all going to be fine and we never have to worry again, and then we can party.
Yeah.
It's recognizing there's always going to be work to do. There's going to be like, we didn't get here overnight. We're not going to get out of here overnight.
Yeah, it's so just like this dystopian idea of like the what you were talking about,
Mhm.
counting the micros or macros and
Mhm.
doing like this perfect meditation breathwork series. And to me, when we talk about that, I see a fucking institution, a white. This is why I think
Yeah.
you and I always joke about millennial gray and like beige life and everything. And
Yeah.
I think beige life became such a thing because people
Mhm.
were so fucking overwhelmed with information that they needed something that could feel like nothing.
Yes.
Like they're like, I don't want to feel joy. I don't want to feel excitement. I don't want to feel sadness. I don't want to feel anything. Put me in my fucking beige so I can just feel neutral.
Right.
And that was bypassing. That was
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a result of, I think, way too much of the too much information, the too little feeling. We need to
Yes.
still feel and have I'll share real quick. I was sharing with one of our witches about who's starting this to do work around style and stuff like that, and I
Mhm.
had seen this thing that I loves, that style is pushback against fascism. So
Yes.
being able to express yourself, and it's
Mhm.
through what you wear, but it's through how you sing and how you
Mhm.
dance and how you decorate your home and all of that. That's a pushback against fascism, which actually tries to make everyone homogeneous.
Yes.
Got my
Yes.
word right this time. And
You did it.
yes, and who tries to filter everyone into this uniform,
Yeah.
follow the leader.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
express yourself. I think that would be another really good. What's your intuition telling you how you want to express yourself, and maybe get
Mhm.
comfortable expressing yourself, not for the likes,
Mhm.
not for validation, not because it's polished or perfect or anything, but wow, what a way to combat like an oppressive controlling system.
Yeah, that's so important. And plus, like, Pisces deals with one of the realms of Pisces is fashion. Because
Oh,
when you are dressing for yourself, that is pulling magic into the mundane.
yeah, I love that.
Yeah, yeah, and there's blogs on fashion magic, and
Yeah.
there was one that was like fabric magic, about what kind of fabric to wear. Yeah, it was, when you're doing glamour work,
Ooh.
it was really fascinating. Um, but yeah, and it's that, because also too, when you are, and that's creativity as well. And when you're connected to your creativity, you're connected to your life force. You're connected to that esoerotic power, which inherently is resistance against fascist regime. And it's and that's why too, I mean, whenever you if you go online and things like that, I mean, when you look at political satire, they always depict like the super conservative MAGA dude. He's got the MAGA hat, he's got the Carhartt jacket. The liberal always has crazy hair and tattoos. So I was like, oh yeah, my friend's cool, But yeah, and that's the thing is, that expression is it's also that embracing of ourselves. And we talked about this last month about just like the deluge of information is meant to overwhelm us and disconnect us from our sense of self. So yeah,
And
I love
when
that.
you can honor your own individuality, you can then recognize other people's right to have their individuality, and what like
Yes.
an empathetic way to accept people, and to understand that we live, again, going back to the 50s. Wow,
Mhm.
like what a miserable, like when I'm like, it sounds miserable to me to live in the 50s.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I was blessed enough to have grandparents that lived, into their 80s and 90s, and I remember having some very candid conversations with my grandmothers, and my grandmothers were very lucky by the standards of the time. My grandfathers and my parents were very progressive,
Oh,
in that like they would help out with housework. But they still were, I mean, my grandmothers didn't have their own money. They still had to like get money from their husbands because they were homemakers. And, I remember my grandmother just being frustrated about that. And it wasn't that my grandfather denied her money, but just being like, hey, could I have some money? Like, to me, I'm like, wow, that sounds very juvenile.
yeah,
And then I realized it's like, oh yeah, because like she had to ask, she had to ask another adult for money,
yeah,
even though she was obviously doing work. I mean, she was raising my mom and my
yeah,
aunt and upkeeping a house. And again, very lucky that my grandfathers both respected, like recognized what their wives were doing, where it was absolutely several jobs. But that was the minority for a lot of people. And
mhm. Your
yeah,
whole identity.
yeah.
Sorry.
Oh no, no, yeah, I agree. And the thing that gets me, when you were talking earlier about the self-expression, I'd heard something recently that the extremism in the political views is a projection of self-hatred.
Oh, go on about that.
Yeah. So it was referring specifically to the far right, the Christian nationalist views, where there is all this oppression around expression, around
Oh,
the
I
way we should dress,
see.
the
Because
way
they're
we
like,
should.
I can't.
Yeah, I can't enjoy myself sexually. I can't enjoy myself, blah, blah, blah. So I don't want anyone else to. And
Yeah.
it's framed within, this conservative, like, we just want to protect everyone. But when you break it down, it's this projection of this hatred of self. And the classic case is like, there's always like that politician that is super against gay rights, and then you find out like, oh yeah.
Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham.
Right, exactly.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah,
And then they
so
find themselves in the bathroom at the truck stop with a
yeah,
wide stance. And no, I swear it wasn't soliciting. Yes.
yeah,
Express yourself. Don't repress yourself. Madonna has known the answer.
yes, he has had the answer. Yes, and this all really comes to a head over the next month, because and
Woo,
we
that's
okay,
exciting.
yeah, yeah. We are all there's gonna be something that we all kind of feel called out by. Whether it is, whether it is a belief, a habit, something that it's gonna make us uncomfortable, that we
Mhm.
just have to be like, okay, I have to sit with this. I have to own my role and where we are. And remember that I have the sovereignty to shift this.
Man, that is what all this work always comes down to. This is why I love astrology. I'm going to always encourage people to book a natal session with you if they just want to understand themselves at a deeper level. But when I see astrology as a tool of energetic shadow work and
Yeah.
just not telling us how, because you didn't say this is going to happen, this is going to happen. This is
Right.
the energy around what's happening. We determine how it happens. And this is also understanding yourself,
Mhm.
which is one of the most empowering things you can do, again, to
Mhm.
recognize your value within the greater society, and that
Yeah.
you have value as you are and how you uniquely show up, and that you're not the victim, and that
Mhm.
we all have our unique individual role to play in the revolution. And this is why it, we're at a point where you can't avoid it.
Right.
Going like la 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 la, finger in the ears is not where we are anymore. Steve Judd, who's an astrologer, you know who I
Yes.
love him,
Yeah.
and he always says, if you're looking at the astrology and it looks like it's going to be challenging, you can't go hide under the bed or the bed's going to collapse on top of you. Like, you can't avoid it, which is like, so knowing that, wouldn't you want to be more empowered? And I always say we're eroticism is, accessing our sexual life force energy is showing up as the creatrix. And what are we creating? And wow, what a month to be able to exercise that and to recognize personal power.
Yeah, yeah. And exercising personal power in a way that is radically authentic to ourselves, that
Yes.
is very Pisces.
Woo!
And that's the thing is, and that's why Pisces, if you meet Pisces and they're a little weird. We're a little weird. It's also why we hang out with Aquarius all the time. We're doing our own thing. It makes sense to us. And we really come home to that opportunity because March 18th, 19th, and 20th are really interesting. The 18th, we've got the new moon at 28 degrees Pisces. And that is, there's a lot of writing out there that talks about like destiny and fate wrapped up in this new moon. We always have sovereignty, even within fated events. And then we go from this new moon in Pisces, which we've been doing this. We have this new moon, in one sign, and then the season for the next sign begins. Because this is about really coming home to that authentic expression. The new moon in Pisces is about really anchoring down into our authentic, unique integrity right before we go into Aries.
I was going to say, and then Aries is showing up as that.
Yeah, Aries is showing up as that. There's a lot. The buzzword around Aries right now is spiritual warrior.
We need spiritual warriors.
Which I always think of Gladiator. Like, are you not entertained?
Oh, and it makes sense that one leads into the other. You always talk about in Moon Club how these signs and these houses they work in tandem. They're not separate from each other. They
Right.
lead from one to the other. So it's not, we're in Pisces season and we compartmentalize this, and then you show up completely renewed in Aries season and you compartmentalize this.
Yeah.
No, it's a journey. And so you take the lessons. We took, the lessons from Aquarius, and then we brought that into Pisces. Then we bring that into Aries, and they all build upon each other, and then we cycle back. But as we always say, it's not a circle, that it's a spiral. So you take what you learn and then you go up a level and you go up a level, and sometimes you go down a level, right, in the depth of self. And yeah.
And so basically what happens is, so what Pisces, if we're gonna personify the zodiac signs, Pisces, because like Aries just wants to go, and Aries doesn't care, like in and of itself, Aries doesn't care where it's going. It's like, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna like conquer the unknown. Pisces' job is to orient Aries. I'm like, okay, cool, I'm gonna let you go and you're gonna take off that way. But Pisces, what we are learning in Pisces season acts as the compass for Aries.
Okay.
We'll go into Aries season.
So important, because sometimes we just want to take off that fire horse. We want to say, ride it, daddy. But no, where are we riding it to?
Right. Yeah. And so we are during this season, we are doing a lot of processing. We're doing a lot of reconnection with our integrity, with our authenticity, because then when we get to Aries season, and you're going to feel that urge, like, okay, now it's time to go. We are, forging ahead. We are going forward, we're jumping and knowing which way we need to be oriented.
Yeah, because we could take off in a direction that's just serving a system that's oppressing us. And why would we want to put our life force towards something that is actually not supporting us or greater society? So, what a
Right. And
powerful time.
it's so powerful. And going back to last month, like knowing what we are for, because, okay,
Yeah.
the epitome of low vibe Aries is, you've seen those comics where there's just like destruction everywhere, and there's like the dude in the MAGA hat going, yeah, but we own the libtards. And it's just like everything is obliterated, he's screwed, but he's just excited that he owned the libtards. Like,
Yes. You
that's
need,
low vibe. Like, you can definitely take off in a direction that is destructive to you and everyone
yes,
else. The thing
to
is
be right. Yeah.
just to be right. Just to be right. Yeah.
Which is not helpful to anyone and is, again, very immature
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah. So then we get into Aries season, and Aries is cardinal fire. It's the start of the new astrological year. This is when I finally celebrate New Year.
There's real New Year.
This is my New Year.
But I love every New Year, so I'm
I
totally
know,
here to
yeah.
celebrate.
Yeah, it's great. You have 3 New Years in 3 months, so it's great.
Like, let's start again. Okay, let's start again. Let's do it again.
For real this time. But yeah, and and it's cardinal fire. So cardinal is initiation energy. And fire energy is very instinctual, in that it's almost like the urge it's a intuition fused with action.
Okay.
And if you have a lot of fire energy in your chart, this may be very familiar to you, where you just feel you're compelled. You're like, I don't know why I'm doing this, but this is where I need to be going.
Yes.
And especially, I mean, yes, all the fire signs, but especially Aries, that's often how their intuition shows up, is they're just like, okay, we're going, we're doing this. And there's 3 days that a lot of astrologers are calling like the luckiest days, which is March 20th through 23rd.
Okay.
So this is where we have the moon is exalted in Taurus.
Okay.
So get your luxury. And then the sun is in Aries during that time. The sun is exalted in Aries. And that just means when a planet's exalted, they really vibe with that energy. And we can really access that energy for ourselves. And so that's a great time, just personally, if there's projects you want to start, if there's something that you're wanting to launch, or whatever it is, whatever's kind of on your mind and in your body that day, like those days, that's a really great time for beginning things.
Ooh, I should have pushed back some of my things. I got excited. Should have launched
It's
a
not
little
great.
later. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that. We always have something to put out into the world. So
Oh yeah, then Mercury goes direct on the 20th. So yeah, just poo.
I love it. I love it. I may do a relaunch then. Who knows?
Yeah.
Love that idea.
So,
I love knowing that there is like energetics behind us that actually that are supporting us to really put ourselves out there.
yes, and especially when we get into Aries season, that is the thing we've been talking about, of like, know what you're for. That becomes so important, because especially when Mars gets into Aries in April. April's also a there's all these wild months this year. But we are really going to, kind of, now we're in the reflective period. We're thinking about a lot of things. We're integrating them in our bodies. When we get to Aries season, the last part of March into April, that is where we're going to feel this very deep embodied urge to act out in the real world. And that is going, and the part of the getting comfortable with being uncomfortable is when we begin to take action. A lot of the established systems that are threatened by change, threatened by our non-compliance in the conditioning, they're going to feel threatened. They're going to react.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so it's just very, very important that we're continuing. And the other thing about Aries too, Aries season, is not just action, like not just being spiritual warriors, but play also. Like play.
Joy is resistance.
It is. And that is also, that's a powerful embodiment practice as well. Finding joy, doing things that exercise your imagination.
Yeah.
That is also going to be very, very critical for getting us through these high growth periods.
Ooh, this is a great insight. And then I know once we get into April, we have Uranus going to Gemini. So we have another freaking huge, gosh, everyone's like the hyperbolicness of like all of these Astro reports the past few months. But like, I think, is that the last big outer planet shift this year? Or
we get a little bit of a break. We do have we have Jupiter that goes into Leo at the end of June.
Yeah.
So we have some more outer planet activity. Okay. But because of the nature of Uranus, like Jupiter, as big as Jupiter is, its transits are fairly chill compared to Uranus, compared to Pluto, things like that.
Because it switches signs like, every
year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not as big of a deal. We're really going to feel Uranus going into Gemini. Yeah. Which, if you want to kind of look back at what was going on for you last summer, because that was when Uranus
the first
dipped
time
into Gemini for a little bit before going back into Taurus one final time. So we're going to see a revisiting.
We'll talk about that next month. We're just teasing y'all. Yeah. So, okay, because we've been babbly, let's if you could put like a bow on this.
Yes. So bottom line, this month is a threshold month. We are transitioning from wrapping up a lot of, old personal karma lessons that we are closing chapters on to prepare for a launch forward in Aries season through the rest of the year.
So listen to your intuition, prioritize your embodied tools and practices, do the reflections on who would I be if I could strip away external validation, and remember to prioritize your joy. But I'm super grateful for everyone for listening. Join us over in the multiverse where we have these live classes if people enjoy these conversations. And that's our virtual membership, and it's only I think people think it's only $88 a month, and you get 3 live classes plus a workbook plus pre-recorded rituals plus our entire replay library, which is like insane because we've been doing this since 2020. So and there's no contract, so if you don't like it after a month, you can leave. But if you just need to be accountable for your practices and all of that, join us and join me in Brand Catalyx, which maybe I'm going to relaunch at the end of March, even though we start in the beginning of March, because if you have a brand or a business or anything like that, and this is lighting you up of like, oh my gosh, I can be authentic in my business, in my offerings, and in how I promote it. Like that's literally what we're doing over the next 6 months in that container, and Tara will be in there. So I'm so freaking pumped on that, because to me, it's just an extension of the creativity of what we do. So I'm promoting, even though the energy is maybe not promoting, it's not supporting it. We still got to move forward and do our work. So Tara,
great time.
This was awesome. And if you need personal support, reach out to Tara. She does your natal chart readings, and it's so supportive to be like, oh, that's why I feel this way, or that's kind of like why I have this natural inclination. It's just a way. It doesn't tell you how to live your life. It just gives you support on how to work with the energy that you are naturally adapted to. So
Yes.
oh, so fun. Well, Tara, any other thoughts, shares, insights?
Oh my goodness. The only other thing I will say is the reason why we keep talking about embodiment is because especially with Saturn and Neptune now in Aries, paying attention to our physical health is going to be even more heightened. A lot of our messaging is going to be coming through our bodies, both, intuition, awesome stuff, as well as like, hey, you've been working too hard, or hey, you've been suppressing this for far too long. It's no longer just trendy. This is literal life-changing, and in some cases life-saving.
Beautiful insight and advice. Thank you for that, Tara. I couldn't agree more. I love learning from you. You're so wise. I always love our conversations, and we love everyone who joins and listens to our Babble Fests. Yeah. And so thank you everyone for listening. Feel free to comment wherever this is posted if you have any thoughts or insights or shares or additions to the conversation. And we freaking love you. And Tara, I freaking love you. Do you want to take us out?
Yes. Love yourselves, love each other, and happy stargazing.
Yay! Thank you, Tara. Thank you, everyone.
Mwah.
Thank you for joining. Follow me on Instagram at crimson.minx and visit esoerotic.com to learn to live more fully and unapologetically in your magnetic power, sensual pleasure, and unlimited creative potential.